welcome to So Easy. Today I'm going to have a look at a brand new product. In fact, although I've taken the top off, I haven't even taken it out of the plastic yet, so you'll be seeing it at the same time I do. This is called Kraft Tex. It's a type of paper fabric which is supposed to look and perform a little bit like leather, but be easy to work with like paper and sew like fabric. So let's take a look. I've got just one roll in what's called a stone, like a kind of a natural grey colour. It also comes in a black, a white, a grey, and like a sort of a natural leather, like a beigey type colour. So I've got the stone. Let's take a look at it. So it comes in a roll, and the roll is 19 inches wide by 1.5 yards long. So there's quite a lot of it. So I'm hoping that I've got plenty here that I can give it a good trial. So as you can see, it's come rolled up, and it kind of has a tendency at the moment to roll back on itself, so I'm hoping that it will flatten out okay. It certainly seems okay from the examples that I've seen online. So far it feels like cardboard. It has one side which has got a little bit more texture, I think, than the other. This one feels just a little smoother. That's the inside one. This one feels like it's got just a little bit of flocking on it, but it just feels like a cardboard. So I'm going to take some sample pieces off and treat them in different ways, and we'll have a look and see what they come out like after I've treated them. I hear that it's easy to cut with just scissors or like a craft knife or a rotary blade, so I'm just going to use my regular rotary blade and see how it works. My blades are never that sharp because they're always kind of rusty. Okay, so it mostly went through. See? Okay, so I didn't have to use a lot of pressure, and I was able to cut through it quite well with the rotary cutter. So I'm going to cut a few 6-inch squares. And by making them 6 inches, I'll also be able to test and see if any of my treatments that I do make the fabric shrink up a little bit. So I'm going to cut 3 6-inch squares. There we go, one more. And then we'll treat them all in different ways. So I've read that there's different ways that we can pre-treat this. Now you don't have to pre-treat it at all. If what you're making requires something to be, you know, smooth and exactly like this once you've finished it, if you're going to make a wallet or, I don't know, some kind of journal cover or something, then you don't have to treat it at all. You can just use the fabric as it is. But I'm going to pre-treat all of these, because I can already see what it's like without. So for this one, I'm going to soak it. I'm going to soak it for 10 minutes in boiling water. This one, I'm actually going to boil it, so I'm going to put it in a pan and boil it for 10 minutes. And with this one, I'm going to crease it up, take it apart, crease it up, take it apart. I'm going to make sure that it's all evenly creased all over, and once it's creased, then I'm going to soak it and see how it comes out, and we'll see how it compares if I crease it before compared to if I crease it after treating it with the hot water. Okay, so I'll go and do all those. Take me 1/4 of an hour, and then I'll come back and we'll see what this new product looks like. So here are my 3 pieces. I've just taken them out of the water. This is the one that was creased before, and it does appear to still have a bit more texture. This is the one I soaked. This is the one I boiled. Not much in it at the moment. So now I'm going to take them over to the ironing board and just press them with an iron without any steam for a little while and just dry them out, and then we'll take a look. In terms of their structure, now they're wet and they're boiled, it's certainly a lot more soft and flexible than it was before, but once they're dry, we'll have to see if it goes back as stiff as it was. So I've pressed my pieces with a dry iron, just turn the steam off until they're dry now, and basically they fall now into 2 camps. I've got these, the one that was boiled and the one that was soaked, and Neither of them feel any different to the other, so I think there doesn't seem to be much difference between the soak-in and the boil-in method, at least for 10 minutes. They're both stiffened back up again now that they're dry, but I figure they're not quite as stiff as they were originally. So I'm now going to try these again. This one, on the other hand, is the one that I creased before. A lot of the creases relaxed as soon as I put it in the water, and of course as soon as I ironed it. But now, looking at it, although it's smooth and flat, it has a much more natural looking texture, like you'd expect from leather. You may or may not be able to see that very well, maybe more on that side, I don't know. But it looks more textured now. It has a little softness to it, and it's also more flexible than the other two, so that's interesting. I think by creasing it before, I don't know whether you kind of slightly break down the fibres in it, but it's certainly more flexible now than these other two. So now I'm going to put them all back in, give them another soak for another 10 minutes and see what happens if I soak them a little bit longer. So here's the results that I've got so far. This is the piece that so far all I've done is boil it and dry it with the iron, and it's really not much different to how it started, I don't think, even though it's been in the boil twice. It's got the same texture on the surface, so nothing really much has changed with that. This is the one that I put in the soak the first time, and it came out no different. This time I boiled it up again with the rest, and once it was wet and had boiled, I then scrunched it all up and then dried it with the iron, and it's definitely got more texture than the one that isn't scrunched. So I think so far this one that isn't scrunched, this is the one which is my least favourite, and unless you want something which is very smooth and neat, I wouldn't go with that. You want to add some texture to it. So this one was scrunched up while wet and then dried with an iron, and this has definitely got more of a leather texture. This is the one which I creased originally, and I creased it while it was dry before putting it in the water, and then it relaxed in the water, and then when it came out I creased it again before ironing, and this has the most texture. It's still ironed nice and flat, but it has all the kind of irregular creases and things in the surface that you'd expect more of a real piece of leather to look like, and I think this so far is my favourite. So the Kraft Tex book actually recommends that you put your pieces into a hot and heavy wash, so I'm going to do that next. I'm just going to throw a couple of towels in my washing machine and put these 3 in there on a hot wash, and we'll see what they look like then. So I've just taken my pieces out of the washing machine, and immediately I can notice a difference. When they came out, they were all folded. So where they'd been spun in the machine, they came out folded like this, and now got very prominent creases through them. So that's very different to how it looked before. So I'm just going to give these a press now and see if I can get these creases out. Otherwise, you know, that you wouldn't be able to use these, I think, in the same way. You'd have to try and cut the pieces accordingly. So let's see what happens when I give them a press now. So here are the final results of my experiment. This is one of the pieces that's just come out of the washing machine, and as you can see, even though I've pressed it, it's still got the prominent fold in it, how it came out the washing machine. I wasn't able to get rid of that. So I would say that you can throw it in the washing machine, certainly it's machine washable, but do be aware that if you then spin it in the machine and it comes out with creases in, that it will be left with those kind of creases in the fabric once it's dried and ironed. I would also say that soaking or boiling doesn't seem to make much difference, so if you want to make it easy on yourself, just pop it in a dish and pour boiling water over and leave it to soak for 10 minutes. It didn't seem to make much difference whether oh, I don't know though. Just trying to think about the original. I've got the original here, and these are my pieces after. So these have been boiled twice and gone through a heavy wash once, and they are more supple now certainly than they were originally. So I think the more you wash it, the more supple it becomes. And if you really do want this kind of leathered surface, then I suggest that what you do is scrunch it all up before washing or soaking it, scrunch it up again when it comes out wet, and then pressure iron over, and you get a nice smooth but figured surface which has got this leather-like texture. Okay, so those are my experiments. It's certainly an interesting product, and now I'm just going to work on a very simple project for it, just to sew it for the first time, and then we'll see what kind of patterns I can come up with. Thanks very much for following along and learning with me about this new Kraft Tex product.